I looked at my wife in late 2022, December, Christmas, and I was like, because we're screwed. I was like, ChatGPT is doing what we do in 30 seconds. What I didn't realize at the time was it just lowered the barrier of entry of content creation for anyone and their whomever to create shitty content at scale in an afternoon.
For 15 years, David has built content marketing agencies that serve one of the most regulated, scrutinized industry there is, law firms. But here's what makes today's conversation different. David is in the middle of a major pivotal navigating an industry being shaped in real time by AI, and he has been refreshingly honest about the pressure that comes with that.
The job has changed. The job has changed. And
it's changed.
a colleague of mine I saw on a podcast, and I like what he said, and I'm stealing it, Chris Dreyer. He said, what is Google's incentive to index or surface AI slop content? By design, the content doesn't stand out. And if the name of the game is getting content to rank, you're going to have to put a little bit of extra something in there to get it to rank.
Welcome back to Process Over Pressure, the show where we cut through the highlight reels and have real conversations with real true founders who have been in the trenches. They've seen the wins, they've seen the losses, and everything in between. I'm your host, Chad Paris, and today I am joined by David Arato, founder of Lexicon Legal Content. For 15 years, David has built content marketing agencies that serve one of the most regulated, scrutinized industry that there is, law firms. But here's what makes today's conversation different. David is in the middle of a major pivotal navigating an industry being shaped in real time by AI, and he has been refreshingly honest about the pressure that comes with that. David, welcome to the show. Glad to have you, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chad.
Yeah, I was excited about doing this one with you and getting the chance to talk to. You have a unique job in what you do and the way you go about it. And, I'd love for you to just kind of take a moment and tell us, 15 years is a long time to be focused in one vertical.
It has been.
I'm sure you've seen a lot. So I'd love you to tell us a little bit about, yourself and where you've been and how you've gotten here today.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it was a unique job. Trying explaining it to your family. That's something, man. No, so I was, it kind of happened organically. I was graduating from law school, 2009, not a great time to be getting out of law school. And I started writing content while I was studying for the bar the summer after I graduated for a small agency that no longer exists in St. Louis, where I'd gone to law school. And I realized that I was pretty good at it and that my content was ranking pretty well and that not a lot of people were doing regulated industry content at the time. I mean, this was the Wild West, right? This is 2009, 2010. Quickly realized it was a pretty good fit for me. And I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Went all in on this, started doing it on a freelance basis, and then slowly kind of morphed into an agency. And 15 years, you're right, it is a long time. We've been very lucky to have some very strong long-term partnerships in the legal vertical with agencies that use us as a white label partner. So that has, you just kind of follow the money professionally. You know what I mean? If there's opportunity, you follow it. So yeah, that's that. That's how we got here.
It's great, and you think about, there's a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, or let me say this, there's a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs and are looking at things and thinking, okay, what can I do that? And I think, one of the biggest things that I think is a hurdle is understanding your niche and what
Yep.
you're really good at.
Yep.
And being willing to dive into that. And, you've kind of found your niche. I mean, I don't think you probably in the first year of law school said, you know what, I'm going to be a content writer or marketing for law firms and helping with that. I probably didn't come to your mind, but
I
how
didn't.
yeah, how did you get to that? How did you figure out how early did you figure out that's your niche?
I didn't even know that was a job when I was graduating from law school. How did I figure out it was my niche? Again, it was really organic. Seeing opportunities and taking them, especially in the circumstances I was in at the time, it was almost out of necessity. if you know what I mean. But then necessity becomes opportunity when you look at it the right way. And especially when you're servicing a regulated profession. So obviously, legal makes sense for me to be in because I have a JD. Even I'm not a practicing attorney, but I have the JD, which provides me with a credential that gets me through the door, so to speak, right? Like, just when people who practice law want to talk to people who understand what they're talking about, who understand the regulatory framework of and the regulatory issues involved in advertising or marketing a law firm, which you do talk about in law school. So that credential gives me just inherent what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's a credential that people take me
Yeah,
seriously in my space.
yeah. They know you know their business, right?
That's correct.
They're comfortable knowing that you do that.
That's
You
correct.
know, I've had some lawyers on my podcast and have talked to a few, and I always find it, interesting in talking to lawyers is, there's a stigma that you think about when you think about a lawyer, right? You think about this, a high-rise building, corporate America, suit, tie, walking in, briefcase, and, just giving it to the people. That's made for movie. The reality is that, a lot of these guys that I've and girls that I've talked to, uh, they know the law. Like, they
Yeah.
know it. Like, they're
Yep.
good at it. Like, they
Yep.
get it. But when it comes to the like, I think this is kinda ironic. In law school, they don't say, "Let me take you over here and run these business classes," because no one teaches them how to run a business. They teach them how to defend law and prosecute, defend, and those things, legal jargon, but not the business side of it. You see that in what you do?
100%. And like I'm gonna even go a little further than what you said. Law school teaches you the theory of law and you learn how to think like a lawyer, but it doesn't teach you how to file a case. It doesn't teach you how to get in a court, it doesn't teach you how to litigate. That's all. Law school does not prepare you very well for either being a practicing attorney or a business person. And it's funny, in my little slice of this industry, many of the lawyers who have achieved what I'll call industry fame or notoriety, the people who look up to, are lawyers that no longer really do a lot of practicing. Lawyers that have built teams and they're master marketers. Like their name is on the door, they own the firm, they're getting people to come sign up for the firm with the firm. They're getting clients through the door, but they're not actually practicing law. They've become a figurehead. Their face might be on the billboard, but they're not the ones in court. Those are their associates. Those, like, I can almost split the industry into like these master marketer lawyers who no longer practice and the practitioners who are capped out because they don't know how to get enough clients through the door and make enough money to scale their businesses up. Because like what's the bottleneck there? The bottleneck is you as a professional, right? So like scaling a law firm is a really difficult thing to do.
No, it's so true. In my world, being a consultant and working with business owners, I'm like you're saying something there that's this. We do see it in law firms, but it's not just in law firms. It's everywhere. I mean, you typically have a person that is very strong in their job and what they do, and they're really really good at it. I mean, they know it. Uh, I think it comes down more, in my opinion, more than not, is it's the things that they enjoy doing
Yep, absolutely.
is what they're really good at, and the things like, for example, I may be a really good lawyer, but I hate the business side of it. Like, I hate the marketing, I hate all that stuff. Like, that's not something I enjoy doing. And so, I think there's people that's probably maybe listening to this are going, "Yeah, that's me." And, we kinda fool ourselves and say we're really good at everything because no one wants to say, "Well, I'm not really good at that," and get help. They just say, "Oh, yeah, I'm brilliant. I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. I'm a this. I can do anything." The reality is that it's something that you don't like is going to pull you away from being the most effective business owner you possibly can.
The reality is if that you own a law firm, you are a business person first. If you are a business if you own a law firm, you're a business owner. You got to get clients in the door. And then you practice law for them if you're a solo. But you can't say, I'm just a lawyer, I'm just a business person. Like you got to be both. Or you get to a point where you've scaled enough that you're a lawyer who is great at business. Or you're a lawyer who's bad at business but great at the law. Right. But like very few people can thread that needle well.
True. So what do you when you take on a client or you look at a client, they're saying, David, I need you to come. We need to talk. What is kind of some of the things you look for, I guess, initially at the very beginning to know, is this going to be a right fit? Where do I need to go from here?
Sure. So we've had a lot of we work both with agencies who white label our services, I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, and with law firms directly. For law firms to be in a place that it's going to be a mutually beneficial relationship with us, we want to see law firms that have a decent marketing budget, obviously, because you have to deploy something, whether it's time or money, in order to get results. Like you can't dip your toe into this thing and expect to get an ROI. Um, Secondly, we really like to work with firms where someone, I don't care if it's a partner, an associate, or a dedicated marketing manager or a CMO, someone who owns marketing. Because what we'll often see when I say owns marketing, what I mean is someone whose job it is to make sure that marketing is running and that they're looking at the metrics and they want to see their ROI, what's their spend, what's our ROI, et cetera. Because what we've seen is if no one owns marketing at a law firm, I don't care if it's a solo or five people that do office sharing, it just falls apart. Like they engage with us for 6 months and then they're like, we're not seeing anything from it yet. And you got to give content marketing time. You have to give it a time. I know
Oh,
people
yes.
people don't like hearing it, and I don't blame. Like, don't get me wrong, we do our own content marketing. I wish I could see a 1-to-1 ROI for like I posted a piece of content and five clients came in off of it. You can't do that. You're building up your content library and your presence online over months and years, right? That's what it is. And you get this critical mass where you become the go-to answer when someone asks a question in either legal marketing. Like I like to think that we come up. I don't like to think. I know we appear a lot. If you Google or Chat GPT or Claude, ask Claude, how can I do content marketing for my law firm? We come up. That's
Yeah.
because of years of creating content. The same is true if you want to get that result for who's the best car accident attorney in Dallas, right? Like you can pay for it in PPC and maybe pay $1,000 a click or create tons of content over the course of years. Anyhow, the firms that we work with are the firms that care about marketing and have the resources to track it and have someone in their firm who owns that as their purview.
Yeah, and before opening my company, I was an executive and worked for 15 years with different size companies, from some that were, 1 to 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, some that were, just at 40, 50 million.
Hmm.
And I think that's what you said there is really, there's some great golden nuggets that you say there, because I've been in those situations when you have a board of directors and you have CEOs and you have people who want instant, like they want things now. That's how they operate. They want, they look at data, they look at, okay, you did X, tell me what the ROI today. And marketing is one of those things that's really hard to pinpoint an ROI because you don't see it instantly. You're so right. It's a long play. It's a, how am I feeding that today? You may not see that outcome or that win, uh 6 months, 4 months, 5 months. It depends, but it's a longer play, but it's so vital to the life of your organization for the future, because if you're not doing that, somebody has already started. They may be a month ahead of you or 2 months ahead of you, and they're getting better at it while you're still figuring out, "Hey, should I do this or should I not do?" You have
That's
to
right.
spend money in it.
You have to. And I was actually reading one of Dan Kennedy's books. I can't remember the title. Magnetic Marketing, maybe. Just the other week, and he was talking about, do you think Goodyear expects people to run out after they see the blimp over the football game? You think they're going to run out and buy some Goodyear tires, right? This is not even a years. This is decades long play. Goodyear, good. You see it everywhere, right? And like
I
the same is true for the firms that are the law firms that I see. Like I live in the Denver market. I'm in Breckenridge, but I go down to Denver Rockies games, and I see a couple of these law firms advertising at the game. Like they have like a big
Oh,
panel
yeah.
on the outfield wall. You can't connect an ROI directly to that, right? It is like saturating the market, being everywhere, and being the go-to name when it comes time for someone. When someone gets in the car accident, somewhere back in their mind, they're like, "Oh, I saw Smith and Jones. at the Rockies game, and that's who I'm going to call. Right? Or they've just been exposed to them so much, it becomes the go-to thought in their mind for injury attorney Denver.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And something you kind of was saying, and I was sitting here while you were talking about that, thinking is, there's so many levers in a business that you have to pull. It's not just you can't put all your money in marketing, you can't put it all over here because I've seen, for example, this is a scenario that I've seen happen with a business owner. You spend the money on marketing, but you lack your workflow or your automation or your other processes, and so people are coming in the door, and because you don't have a good workflow, your customer service lacks. And so, I always tell people, yeah, the marketing is what brings people to the door. And what you do at that point is going to mean whether they're going to go out and tell the experience or they're going to say, don't ever use that person again. You can spend the money on market and you can kill it faster than you can build it.
100%. And like, not all of us have the luxury of having, deep, deep pockets funded by VCs, right? Like a
Yeah,
lot of
sure.
us included, we bootstrapped our company the whole way. And I'll be candid with you. Like we're pivoting right now. We're really building Lexicon Legal Content 2.0 right now. And it's interesting, after 15 years of business, we've been 80% of our business historically came from white label partners. So what that means is we were integrating with bigger companies and becoming kind of a outsourced content marketing arm. So we relied on their infrastructure. Now, as we work more and more directly with law firms, we are now having to build, first of all, build a reputation. Like I was talking to someone else the other day who's in my industry who's like, I hear all these agencies that you're servicing and I've never even heard of you. You've been around 15 years. So in some ways, we're acting like a startup right now. To your point,
Yeah.
as we're moving from servicing few dozen large clients to looking at trying to service 2 to 300 smaller clients, that is a different backend
Yeah.
completely than servicing, and especially when you're the one building out the infrastructure,
Yeah, sure.
right? And
Sure.
to your point, like we're kind of building the plane as we fly it,
Yeah.
right? And that's always hard. It's
No,
one thing when you got millions of bucks coming in from VCs and you can build out your back end and then you start marketing and you're ready to go and you know, not every business is like that.
no, it's right. And so, one of the questions I get often asked is like, okay, I hear you say all that. I agree with you because I think dead on. It's like, well, where do you start? Well,
Yeah.
how do you even start? Because there's so many variables when you're doing a startup or you're in a business that you could pull. There's so many levers, right?
Yep, that's right.
And as an individual, there's only so many levers you can pull. So I get asked this all the time. Okay, what is the first lever? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because I think you've been around. What is the levers that you pull first? What is the main levers that you pull first? I think it's a great question. I'd love to hear your thought on that.
Well, I've actually I've come around on this recently, very recently. Someone said to me the other day, "Sales cures all." And what I was thinking about is this: like, if you've got the revenue to solve your back end or your operational problems, you can solve them, right? Like, and the context was this: that I, as CEO of my company, often I do a lot of stuff like this. I do a lot of outreach. I publish a lot. I do a lot of events, a lot of in person relationship building. But one thing that I do is I take on pet projects, right? And one thing I was trying to do is migrate our company from Trello, antiquated project management system, to Airtable, much more modern relational database, like much more powerful. And I thought to myself that this would be a good project for me to take on. As I was talking to, and I'm non-technical, by the way. Like I was a professional musician, then I went to law school, then I didn't even practice law. I started doing this. So like I'm not some computer whiz, right? So I think it's a good idea to do myself. And I'm talking actually to a business coach I was talking to about this. And you know, she asked me, she's like, why did you take this on yourself? I was like, well, I don't want to spend the money on it. Well, she goes, is it done yet? And I go, no. She goes, would it be done if you would have paid for it? And the answer was absolutely yes. And luckily, we do have the revenue to cover it. But I was thinking at the time, like, and the reason the sales cures all thing is I realized, like, just go get the clients. I think this is where I think there are different answers to your question. But where I sit right now, go get the clients, do your best to not fuck it up,
Yeah.
put a band aid on your processes, whatever, like plug the holes until you have the revenue. And then rather than taking, like, take that revenue and immediately redeploy it into professionally building out your back end with expert help in a way that plugs those holes permanently.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer. I think that, as a business owner, that is probably, I think there's a few really pivotal things you have to make a decision on. I think this is one of them that is the hardest, because you're absolutely right. Like, sales does cure. I mean, money coming in helps you, you know, uh, helps you to grow. It helps you to turn it over. It helps you to put it into the infrastructure that you need to. However, there's also a fine line on the experience and the process, because the last thing you want to do is have it all wrapped into one side and then get that first client you can't deliver.
That's right. I
And
agree.
so it's really a balancing act. I mean, uh,
Absolutely.
it's all about being smart to say, is the dollar amount that I've got, we're at a good place that we need to take that and build that infrastructure. And I think if you kind of doing that together like a little ladder, I
Sure.
think we could make it work.
Yeah, I've read some business books that discuss like growth phases and consolidation phases. Not that we've ever done this because I don't know. I'm just not that organized. Like you're in a growth phase, consolidate, get the clients consolidated, fix your back end, growth phase, and alternate to your point about being a ladder situation.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's all about how you look at it and how you approach it. So tell me, you've kind of been white label, and you mentioned something. I just wanted to kind of circle back on that because I thought
Yeah,
it
please.
was a really good point. Is you were white label, and you've been doing this for 15 years. So all these top law firms, like you've done work on probably all of them. Like you've done the work. You're just not the name in the front of it. And now you're the name, and you're like, hey, I've been doing your work for 15 years. What?
They
I
don't
didn't
know.
even know you.
They don't even know it. Yeah.
How does that feel? How does that, like, do you kick yourself a little bit, or you're like, "Well, why didn't I do this earlier?" Or kind of what's going on with your mind? I think it's
I,
interesting.
I'm going to give you a philosophical answer. There's no use looking back.
Yeah, sure. That's
There's
fair.
no use looking back. And look, we built this business bootstrapped pretty well over the course of 12, 13 years, being almost purely white label. Um, at the time, I didn't see how much, well, first of all, no one could have predicted generative AI. And part of a pivot is this. I think a lot of our agency partners are and they should, and I want to make this clear, they should be experimenting with using AI to create content in-house rather than using a vendor. Now, ultimately, I think there's a lot. I mean, look, there are pros and cons to using an outside vendor, pros and cons of doing it in-house.
Mhm,
I understand how AI would make it more attractive to say, let's build a team in-house that does quality control and humanizing and optimization of AI output rather than giving this all to an outside vendor. I get it. I don't think in a regulated area like legal or medical or finance, building an in-house team makes a lot of sense for smaller agencies.
mm,
Like, look, if you're a Scorpion, sure, do it. But if you're servicing 50 to 100 clients, like, I'm not sure if it makes a lot of sense to build an in-house team. But my point is, I couldn't have seen that coming. And not building we built a reputation within the agency market. That's why have worked, or continue to work with some of the largest legal marketing agencies in the country. I don't think I could have foreseen a situation where we wanted to pivot to work directly with law firms.
hmm,
So at the time, there was no pressing need in my mind to build a national reputation with law firms. That being said, it is kind of fun at this stage in business to have to act like a startup. Like, I'm kind of enjoying the challenge of getting out there, doing these podcasts, publishing. I had an article come out in the ABA Law Practice magazine this morning, actually. So, like, doing this kind of guerrilla marketing and getting ourselves out there, and like for the first time trying to establish myself as a thought leader in this space, which has been going on for a few years now, actually. But like, first, I was kind of I was in the shadows for a decade, right?
yeah,
So like, it's kind of fun, right, to be honest with you. Was
it,
it the best business decision? Obviously not, but
yeah.
here we are.
Well, I think it is fun, and we all have gifts. We all have certain things that we're really good at, and you know you I do. in my job counseling, or I say it is a business counselor is what I am really. But you do the coaching on leadership and the things, and then and also with AI and process workflows with companies. And I always tell my clients one of the things I always am very upfront about is when it comes to AI or it comes to any type of workflow, like processes, procedures, whatever. I always say, look, you cannot fix everything. You cannot. If you do that, it will drive you crazy. You have to take this thing in steps. You know, being a startup or being a new company where you now don't have the millions of dollars to just throw at things. Because when you get to certain places of company size, I mean, to spend $20,000 on an ad spend, like, let's chump change. Let's just
Yeah,
do it and see what
peanuts.
happens. And that's
Yeah,
where you're operating from. Yeah,
that's right.
let's do it, try it, see what happens.
Yeah,
Okay. $20,000 for a startup or a smaller firm is a lot of money that can
yeah,
go into some more powerful ways.
yeah,
And so you have to think of it in a different light and what you're trying to accomplish. And I see I had this I'll use this example. I had this conversation just the other day with a guy, and he was at a big firm and he's now at a small firm. And that's exactly what he was struggling with because in his old firm, it was just like, "Oh, man, we're gonna go get this ad going," and so his ideas are like it is in the big firm, but now
yeah,
he's
yeah,
in the reality of the small firm,
yeah,
and it's not working, and I'm like, You gotta get out of that. That's not you anymore. You're in a different
yeah.
animal."
We're
You know?
lucky that we're straddling the middle there, that we have the capital
Yeah.
to deploy, but also acting like a startup in that we are getting in front of clientele for the first time and having been around for 15 years. And like, it's an interesting dichotomy right there.
I think it's, I'm glad you write or you wrote, you're writing articles and you're doing that kind of stuff because I think that's, you have a lot of knowledge in it and you're giving back. I I think the ABA is one of the, I think is a great to read. I mean, that's a fun one to read, even if you're not a lawyer. There's just some really good stuff in that. Um, but that's cool. I mean, I'm really excited to see what you do with this and kind of how you're progressing through it and get to go back sort of and say, okay, we're gonna try this a little different. I think that's cool. I think that's fun. It's got to be scary and but at the same time
Well, and as I
kind of
mentioned,
exciting.
it is exciting. And we're very lucky in that we do have some solid partnerships that don't seem to be going anywhere and are locked in contractually. So, like, while I do feel a little bit of instability in the market as a result of AI content creation, like we have a good amount of runway, right? So, like, I'm not waking up every in the middle of the night in a cold sweat or anything like that. Like, we're in a solid position. I'm just, what I'm doing honestly is I'm looking at the business in a bifurcated way. I'm going to call it wholesale and retail. So, wholesale is when we partner with agencies and we're behind the curtain and we're helping them their support their clients from a B2B to B standpoint. And then the retail is when we work directly with law firms, which is they have a different set of pain points. They want a completely different product. Even though it's fundamentally, sorry, service, I should say, they want us to productize the service in a way. They want us to package it differently. And it's fun. It's been an exciting and creative way to use the same fundamental deliverable, marketing content, and look at a different market segment and figure out how to package it differently to make it more attractive for this market segment. And it's completely different pain points in the way we discuss it. And it's been a creative endeavor.
That's it. I mean, you just summed it up the best probably that you could sum it up. Same packaging, delivered differently, different pain points.
That's right.
And that's what it's gonna be because they're not at that level or they're not where that is. They're thinking about different, their mind's in a different place, right?
In my industry, reminds me of is when I realized that uh Benadryl is also packaged as sleep aid. It's the same thing in both bottles, different label, right? And like I often think about that when in this situation, like because the pain points are so different. Like in my industry, and I don't want to get too deep in the details because it's general business podcast, obviously. But like when I talk to agencies, they want to hear what is your price per word and what is your turnaround time. That's their pain point. How much content can you deliver at what cost in what time frame? Law firms don't want to hear about price per word. They want to hear how is this going to help me get more cases? And what is soup to nuts give me the content ideation, post it on my website, put it on our social, and optimize it. What is that price point? They don't want to get granular. They want a package.
Yeah.
And the agencies are completely different.
Yeah. That's so true. So I got to ask, we're kind of the elephant in the room. Let's talk about I know we've talked a little bit about AI, but let's because it's there, right? And I've had these conversations with law firms and stuff. You know, look, AI is doing nothing but growing. It's nothing
Yep.
but getting better. It's going to
Yep.
continue to grow. I
Yep.
tell people, it's not going away. You
No.
might as well embrace it. It's here, right? Um, what have you seen, or just maybe you can be a little candid, and when you look at AI and you look at law firms, because there's a lot of variables that go in there with legality and what can be shared and how it's shared and all those things. And I know that AI is working. There's companies working on some of that stuff to make it where it's fit for law firms, but there's a ton of law firms that are using AI right now
It
today.
should be.
I talked to tons of them that are doing it. What's your thoughts on it? I'd just love to hear your piece on
Okay.
what you think.
I'm gonna go from I'm gonna start prognosticating about AI in legal practice, and then I'm gonna go to what we do. So I never practiced. Let me make that clear. But I did go to law school, and I do work with a lot of lawyers, so I do understand a lot of how the industry works, how they bill, etc. I'm concerned about how AI is going to affect a lot of really deeply ingrained models in the legal profession. The billable hour, for one. If you used to bill 4 hours for, like, I don't know, Chapter 7 filing. I'm not sure. Those are usually flat fee. I can't think of something off the top of my head. But if something used
Sure.
take you 4 hours and you bill 2 grand for it, and now it takes you 1 hour, you can't bill 2 grand for it ethically anymore. So I think the value of billable hour legal work is going to shrink, and that's going to have to change because I don't think lawyers are going to be able to survive and justify the costs of their education with the billable hour. Secondly, I think that the partner associate model might be threatened by AI, because if I were a partner who was billing out my associates at 400, 500, 350, depending on the market, bucks an hour, and all of a sudden one associate could do the work of five associates by using AI and ensuring legal, like, what's the point of me hiring all those associates anymore at 150 grand a year? Right? Or whatever the starting rate is in your market. It might be 80 in Cincinnati and 150 in New York City. I don't know. But you get the idea. What's the point of hiring all those associates? So I'd be terrified if I was a first year law student. So I think there's going to be a lot of disruption I don't think lawyers are going anywhere, first of all, because I think
No.
legal licensure is a moat that the bars, they're not going to, like, you're not going to penetrate that moat for a long time if you ever do. Like, they're not going to let AI lawyers in court. They're not
No.
gonna they're not gonna let a pro se litigant in. Some guy tried it a few years ago. He's wearing, like, glasses with, like, a screen reader on him, and tried to use ChatGPT to practice. The judge kicked him out. So I don't think lawyers are going anywhere. I think it's gonna be really disruptive to the way the industry bills.
Yeah.
With
Agree.
regard to what Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I completely agree with that, completely.
With
Yeah.
regard to what we do, content creation is, like, squarely in the sights of AI. Like, it was the first thing that people started using it for.
Yeah.
And I looked at my wife. I remember I say this in every podcast I go on, so just so you know. I looked at my wife in late 2022, December, Christmas, and I was like, Erin, and she's my business partner as well, and she went to law school. She practiced a little bit. Long story short, I look at her and I was like, Erin, I got to go take the Colorado bar because we're screwed. I was like, ChatGPT is doing what we do in 30 seconds. What I didn't realize at the time was it just lowered the barrier of entry of content creation for anyone and their whomever to create shitty content at scale in an afternoon. You could put out, if you put your mind to it, you could put out 200 pieces of content for a law firm website in one day. None of it would rank. None of it would rank. These LLMs, by definition, by design, I should say, by design, create content that is pulled from other sources and is generic and is non offensive and doesn't stand out. By design, the content doesn't stand out. And if the name of the game is getting content to rank, you're going to have to put a little bit of extra something in there to get it to rank. So, what's happened to Lexicon, and I think to other content creation agencies over the past 4 years almost now, is the job has completely changed. Rather than sourcing really great writers who are very accurate and don't drop commas and don't have typos, that part's easy. The hard part now is actually creating content that matches with a firm's identity, that demonstrates the four elements Google wants you to demonstrate in content, which is experience, expertise, authority, and trust. Also, that adds something new to the conversation. Again, if these LLMs are trained on an existing corpus of data, nothing will be new. Again, by design. So, like, it's up to us to go out there and get new statistics or case results or interview the lawyer to create content that's going to stand out and get in the top spot for either the AI overviews or on the Google SEO organic results, or show up in the LLM platforms, the chatbots, Claude or OpenAI
Yep.
or ChatGPT. So our job has changed completely, right? I thought it was, we are able to create better content faster than we used to, but there's also more content going out. So the competition has just increased to create great content.
Yeah. No, well said. And I'm work with a client right now, actually, that's doing that, and he's trying to build his online presence with his shopping and stuff like that. And I was talking to him at his meeting today about SEOs, and I said, look, you can use Claude, and that's fine, or ChatGPT, but I would advise you to, if you want to lay it out, if you want to feed it and it lays it out, take that and then rewrite it
100%.
be- because you're the way it's going to write it is not going to hit. You have to take that as a good scope and say, okay, I don't like rewrite it in your own words, because that's what's going to be powerful. Not AI. Will it get better? Yes, it will get better. But every time it gets better, everything else gets better,
And everyone has access to the same tools.
and everything has access to the same tools. So over time, it's going to do nothing but flatline because everything else is the same content out
That's
there.
right. And
So
the
yeah,
job has changed. The job has changed. And
it's changed.
a
Uh,
colleague of mine I saw on a podcast, and I like what he said, and I'm stealing it, Chris Dreyer. He said, what is Google's incentive to index or surface AI slop content?
yeah.
Why would it, like, Google's incentive is to give the users the best experience they have, right? And the most accurate answer to their query. So why would it surface 5 things to do after a car accident that's been written 500,000 times
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
past 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
100,000 of them by us. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
see what I mean? Like,
Nice.
it has no incentive to even in Google has no incentive to index that content, much less surface it. And then if you think about the fact that indexing content takes resources from Google, what it is, there's clearly a secondary incentive to then not index and ignore AI generated slop. So
Yeah.
good luck getting AI generated slop indexed and ranked.
Yeah. It's so true. And I also add a little piece to that is I think that what you'll see happen is and this could happen. The people behind the scenes at Google or Facebook or Meta or all those guys, they could be having a really bad morning and change the algorithm, and it's like, okay, now we're all really screwed
That's right.
because that could
That's right.
happen too. Zuckerberg could have a bad morning and be like, "We're going to change it all."
Yeah.
Very common, it could happen, but I think you're right, and you got to. So I think we're both saying the same thing. I think AI is great tools, and I think it's all about how you're using it and where you're trying to use it to be successful. It cannot replace everything. It cannot replace everything. It can be a resource to help you in some areas um, that if you got a bunch of case studies and you're looking at 4 or 5 different case studies and you're trying to work on your opinion or whatever, there's some they can work very good about going and getting that information and help summarize it and put it into like paralegal work. Like they can do that, and it's very good at that. and it helps to write the cases or helps put it in that. You're always going to write it yourself, but at least I'm just using this as an example. That's a good way maybe to use it. That's a good, because it's resourcing and helping you look at some resources that's tying a bunch of stuff into one, rather than you having four strings up trying to look at a bunch of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, David, this has been awesome. If people are out there and they're a law firm and they're like, "Hey, you know what? We need some help with content writing. We need some marketing help." Um, that are like, everything y'all have said today, I could use some help. How can they get in touch with you?
Email me, David at lexiconlegalcontent.com. I'm all over the socials. active on LinkedIn. Our website is www, obviously, lexiconlegalcontent.com. So we're really easy to find.
Yeah. No, and if you're out there and you're listening and you're like, "Hey, I like some of this stuff they're saying," feel free to reach out to David. You're always welcome to reach out to me as well, and I can connect you with David, and we could both work helping you or however. But again, what a great time it's been with you. Really appreciate you taking the time and having a conversation. So, guys, thank you, and y'all have an awesome day.